to become the Anonymous.
The Anonymous. The game begins August 19th on USA.
What's up, Robbi? How you doing today?
What's up? I'm good. I'm sad I got eliminated, but I'm just powering through and accepting the loss.
Well, we will keep it positive for sure. I'm not Jay. I'm from Big O Belt Media. Yeah, I've been very excited to talk to you because you have been the talk of the town. And I want to start off by what I think is hilarious about this show, the unpredictability of it and whatnot. But I thought maybe some outside core principles may come into play. And typically when you have a woman who has both beauty and brains, that is something that people typically like to keep around forever. In this case, they felt threatened. How does it feel as a woman to hear very uplifting sort of like attributes about yourself, but yet used in a negative way?
Yeah. So that was kind of like the unfortunate thing where I'm like, okay, well, I'm glad everyone considers me a threat, but also like I want to make sure if I'm considered a threat that the wrong person isn't up as the anonymous that might want to be getting rid of the threat. I remember thinking I had it all down. Like, I'm going to win this thing. I'm going to be one of at least a few people left at the end. And then the new people showed up and I was like, oh, damn. And then there's like two pretty girls there. Also, I was like, oh, shoot. And I just was like, I just don't have time to do this all over again and form these like, I love the alliance that I had formed and I had going on. I already kind of knew right away when I met everybody, like who I was going to connect with the most and who I was going to really like. Because, I really felt the strategy going in was to find like your three people and like work as like this tribe and make sure we all made it all the way to the end. And it was working. Xavier was up as the anonymous. Our strategy was to remove the weaker players because that's what our side of the alliance kind of wanted to focus on. We felt that the most important thing in the beginning was to really keep around those that were contributing to the prize pool. But then there was this other half that felt that they wanted to get rid of the threats because they weren't the strongest contenders in the house. So I remember thinking, as long as the person that's the anonymous isn't somebody that feels threatened by the threats, I'm good. But the moment that Andy was saved, I was like, damn, the person that's the anonymous tonight is going to get rid of the threats. And I knew I was up there as one of the biggest threats. And when Andy was saved, I also had a very, very strong feeling. I was almost like 99% sure it was one of the new guys or new girls. And that's because most of my alliance was standing up for elimination. So I was like, shoot, it's me. It's friggin' me. I already like planned my exit speech when Andy was saved. It's unfortunate. I really did not for the life of me thought that with only one vote, that I would have been the one to go. Like, I was another example of the craziness of this game, that it doesn't matter. Chris, I think, had like 5 or 4.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. That does not matter. All that matters is if you were saved, if you were safe from being elimination, or if you're the anonymous. Those are the only two things you wanted to be every single time, no matter what. Couldn't do one of those two, you were always up. And so we were walking around eggshells the whole time, the entire time. There's an elimination every day. And I just have to say that, like, I just friggin' knew. And I kept thinking, like, how do I do it? How do I do things differently? I would never have come out and said that I was a poker player. I think now, looking in hindsight, that was the best strategy. It's a game about deception. I was already a threat, not even coming off as a poker player, which is crazy.
Yeah.
And so, and I don't know. I guess the only way that I maybe could have had a chance was the waterfall, I guess, like, challenge happens later, not earlier. I think that kind of put a target on my back right away, but I still don't understand how I was considered one of the biggest threats when we literally have somebody that won Big Brother, somebody that's been in Survivor. We were all competitors, and whatever, for whatever reason, if you want to get rid of me because you think I'm the biggest threat, and it ended up being Victoria, probably a better strategy on her end, because I was 100% winning it. And so if you felt threatened by me, good for you, Victoria. You did the right thing to get rid of me.
The variables constantly changed, and I would say that I would agree if it had focused on about who makes money, who serves purpose in terms of the pot strengthening, then obviously you're somebody you easily want to keep around. I mean, I got to tell you, I thought I had pretty decent memory, but to see how you super excelled at memory waterfalls, I believe the name of the game was, I was like, oh yeah, memory falls. I was
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, she's about to be a problem. And I saw that as a good thing in terms of the competition, because at the end of the day, it's not like the pot was already established and you have to, and it's reeling back from it. You have to
Yeah.
add to it. So you
Yeah.
want to have your best players on the court, your best players on the field. And I just, as it got to elimination, I think this is why the game is genius. Once you get in there and you get in those sessions with DANI, that's when
Yeah.
emotion gets involved and personal aspects get in there, and then the game logic goes away, which is, as you said, just one person deciding to harp on this idea of like who we want to get rid of. They remove all logic in situations like you,
Yeah.
where I knew they were gunning for you, but I gotta honestly say, when they reshuffle all of
Handle.
the handles, I was like, oh my God, that's the saving grace for her. She's won this. She
Sure.
got this in the bag now.
Yeah, because I remember like I loved being Dice, but when Tyrina was eliminated, I couldn't be Dice anymore. And it's so interesting you mentioned that. Like I almost felt like so guilty putting Xavier up for elimination, but I thought like maybe my strategy has to be that I pick the person that people think that I would least likely put up for elimination.
Right.
But turns out that I was putting him at risk as well, because that might have been somebody else's risk by putting me up for elimination, is that they wanted to, and it ended up being Dylan, of course. Thanks a lot, Dylan, whatever. But he was also threatened by me, so he probably would have eliminated me as well. But I do feel that like, yeah, we're even risking trying to hide our handles by putting people that we would not want to eliminate it ultimately up for elimination, because it all just comes down to who the anonymous is that night. So it's like
Exactly.
such an interesting way that the game was like structured. It's like there's really no way for the best player to win the game. Like that's just not the
Yeah.
way the
It's
game's structured.
it's fully luck. So let me ask you something, because with the poker background, and that's such a profession, that people only wish they could be in that space, and you've been making waves for it. I see you got something coming up very soon. When you step into a game like this, is it more, is it more, especially with somebody with high IQ like you, was this more fun because it was more in a creative space, or was it more mentally taxing because it still was competitive for you?
So when I came and decided to do the show, I was like, this is going to be an awesome developmental opportunity, because all I am is sitting around like these mega poker nerds all day that are just crazy calculators. Like, and I thought for once I was just with normal people. I'm like, oh, I get to be with the real world. Like, and I mean that with all due respect for the poker community, but I'm very vocal about how I feel about the poker community and how they're like destroying poker by their nerdiness. Because I do want it to be like a space for people to feel more welcome. But that's a different story. I wanted to kind of just like be out in like the mainstream world and showcase what I can do, what I've been doing in my like professional industry, and just have an opportunity to be with normal people in a competitive environment. I'm obviously a very competitive person, just living like a normal human being. So I was really excited to kind of have that stress off my shoulders and be able to compete with strangers, because that's who they were to me when I first came to the house, and finally just like be able to show my true colors when they just don't know who I am, or I didn't think that they knew who I was, right? So
Yeah.
it was finally an opportunity for me to be competitive in a different environment. But then seeing now, like I also couldn't do that. I couldn't be that competitive. And of
Yeah.
course, there's certain aspects of poker that there are certain character traits that make you a stronger poker player, and they translated into the show. So there, I ultimately, even when I try to hide that I was a poker player, it all surfaced to the top anyways. So it is what it is. You got rid of the biggest threat. Good for you, Victoria. Good for anybody that's getting rid of the threats one by one. I don't think that the biggest threat's going to win. I think that somebody that's under the radar is going to win, but I do think
Yeah.
ultimately it's going to be a strong contender.
I am definitely leaning towards Lily now, who's been in the hot seat almost every week now, and is not somebody that was very high on my radar before,
Yeah.
but she's building confidence, and momentum is everything in any game. So, we'll
Yeah.
see. Let me ask you, would you do it again?
I would do it again. I would do it again, and I don't know how I would do it differently. I think obviously, like I would do it again. I would be who I am. And I think I'd probably not show my true colors right away. But again, like I can't control that, because I had to do well in Memory Falls to contribute to the
Yeah.
prize pool. And I really love that I was able to make myself safe.
Yeah.
I think I would just say less. I would say less in the chats, because
They held that to Dice
That
very
was,
close. They said Dice has something to say.
oh no, like spicy dicey came out, and I was like, oh, there's
Dicey.
so much. And I think that I did out myself with just, and like, and I've said this, every punctuation mark matters, every single word mattered. You know, like Xavier even said it. I feel like I'm dating a brand new like girl right now, and every word matters in this text message I'm reaching out. So it's like
Damn, that's good.
everything mattered. And I think that there's like three things that could like, for Robbie isn't safe anymore, I think outed me a little bit. I would re-strategize the way that I was, how I was handling things in the hideouts. I think ultimately I was able to kind of cover the fact that I was Dice by coming off as Tyrina,
Yeah,
but
poo,
I
that
would
was
say
brilliant.
less. I would say less, and you'll see that Wayne's strategy was to say nothing at all. So it really depends on what people's strategy is. Say less, Robbie.
I have to ask you really one really important question, then time is getting ready to come up. But something I've been wanting to ask everybody, but you particularly, and I wasn't sure was it going to be during the season or at the end if you ultimately winning this. Has anybody ever asked after an elimination who they thought the anonymous was? How come that has been a subject matter or a topic upon elimination? Everybody tends to want to know who everybody is in terms of whatever their I always want to call it signs, their handles,
Yeah,
but no one's ever says, I wonder who the anonymous was.
yeah,
For you, big brain, I feel like that's a question you instantly would have asked.
yeah, yeah. I knew that when I was eliminated, it was a new person, and I knew it wasn't anybody in my alliance, and I had a very, very strong feeling that it was Victoria. I just knew because she saved Chris. And I didn't, there was a part of me that thought maybe it could be Wayne. I didn't have enough time to get to know Wayne, but I do know that what the new people were hearing over and over again was just all the feedback that they had received about who the stronger people were, because they kept even asking me, and they kept going, who's the threat in the house? And that's the first thing that they asked everybody. So I think ultimately, I already knew it was a new person, and I didn't need to question that. And I don't know who people thought it was when I was eliminated. I guess they're gonna find out. But it was either a new person or not somebody in my alliance, because those alliances had been formed, and I felt very, very strongly convinced that my alliance would not have outed me. Not so soon. Later though. I
I'm just
do later.
Yeah, I'm just really baffled that at no weeks after elimination, somebody comes out in the conversation. It's like, I wonder who the anonymous was. Everybody's always more shocked about like who the elimination was and their
Yeah.
handles with them, but not the
That's
conversation of
interesting.
like,
It's interesting that that's what you see. I think when we were in the show, we were more concerned about like, yeah, like there's so many different aspects and legs in the show that you really just don't know what to hone in on.
yeah,
And people don't even realize it's not about how many people you got right. It's about remaining aloof, right? Like it doesn't matter if you got everyone's handle right. If you didn't keep your handle a secret, you're out. Like
that's it.
that's it. It's a really interesting strategy. And I think for anybody new watching the show, the hardest thing is to kind of figure out what the show is about. Once you pick it up, you realize that like there are certain nuances of the show that there isn't a one specific personality type that's going to win it. It's just somebody that gets a little bit lucky, gets away with it. Kind of like you're kind of just like you're always, it's like there's bombs going around everywhere, and you just want to be the one that doesn't get hit by it. You're just
Yeah.
dodging bullets left and right all day, and that's the person that's going to win it.
Well, we're going to have to see, man. I knew I was going to have a great time talking to you. I know at one point you wasn't everyone's favorite, but I did love that even during your elimination, that's everybody gave you so much love and grace. Whether it was real or not, it was still a beautiful moment because I think you deserved that. And I know earlier in the season, Casey was very adamant how she wasn't so cool with you, but it's okay because at the end of the day, you lasted longer.
Yeah.
And you went out in style, I would say. So, we'll see what's going on down the line with you. Because I absolutely would love to see you back on reality TV in another competitive space. And I'm pretty sure this time, it's gonna be a different playing field for you now. You done got a little taste.
You just wait. You just watch out for me. I'm gonna win it this time.
I hear that. Thank you so much for your time today, Robbi.
Thank you. Thanks so much. It was so nice to meet you. Thanks for watching.
Absolutely. Take care.